Blacephalon GX is back in action. Welcome back everyone to more from the Saberliners. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to be taking a look at the big blown Blacephalon GX. Recently did well in Malmo Regionals. I believe it was in top 32, which is a really strong showing, and this deck will not go away. It's interesting that a deck with such a powerful attacker hasn't seen as much success recently. Obviously 180 HP isn't as strong as it used to be, but that's okay. We'll take a look at the list and see just how it does the job. So if you've looked at a Blacephalon list in the past, then this probably won't look too different for you. There are a couple of new cards that are floating around in here, but for the most part it is the same. We have obviously our main attacker in Blacephalon GX. I went a little bit New Zealand there for a second. Our main attacker in Blacephalon GX. Mind Blown is the main attack we're going to be trying to use. 50 times the amount of damage, energy that we send to the Lost Zone that are attached to our Pokemon. So we're going to be trying to attach energy manually using Welder, and of course by accelerating them with Naganadel. Charge up means that we can put one from our discard pile onto Naganadel every turn, so we can power up our Blacephalons. Mind Blown that way. We also obviously have Welder as an out to attach more energy as well. So we've kind of got ourselves a baseline of approximately 3 energy a turn with an attachment, a Welder, and maybe an Naganadel or 2. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less, but Mind Blown can very easily start to do big amounts of damage with all of your Naganadels down and a Welder and an attachment. That is 300 damage is very strong. We also have Burst GX, which is one of the key selling points for this card in my opinion. Burst GX means that it allows you to take one of your prizes, discard it, or if it's a fire energy, you attach it to your Pokemon in any way you like. So Blacephalon, if it finds itself in a position where it needs to take one prize, all it needs is an energy, and it can win the game that way. Obviously, I already mentioned the Naganadel. We've got Charging Up. Turning Point is an effective attack. It can do 80 plus 80 when your opponent, when you have exactly 3 prizes remaining, which can take a one-shot on a Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX if it doesn't have Weak Guard energy. So it is worth keeping in mind that Naganadel can attack, so it's definitely worth thinking about. We also have a couple of other Naganadels in this list. We have the Venom Shot Naganadel, which we're used to seeing in Mewtwo lists, but in this one we're actually using it more for its ability. Ultra Conversion means we can discard an Ultra Beast and draw 3 cards. So Naganadel GX with Ultra Conversion being in play means we can use the ability. Venom Shot every now and then might come up. We have the Beast Energy and Psychic Energy that we can utilize to use that attack if we wish, but probably not going to be our go-to attack. We also have one copy of Stinger Naganadel GX. Obviously, Stinger GX means that you have a good matchup against things like Mill. You can Stinger GX, send both players down to 3 prizes, and then utilize your one copy of Baby Blacephalon with Fireworks Bomb to start spreading damage around the place. This means that you are in a position where you don't necessarily need to worry too much about Mill. You've got a strategy, and most of the time you'll be able to pull it off. Obviously, we have a very thick line of Naganadels here. It's a 4-6 line. You're not going to get all of them into play. Most of them you are going to discard with Naganadel GX, so you're not too worried there. In support, we have 2 Pokemon. Oricorio-GX is a strong Pokemon in this deck. Dance of Tribute means that you're able to accelerate your hand a little bit more, give you 3 more cards to look at. You might attack with Razor Wing if you get desperate. And we also have the Dedenne-GX. In order to use Dedenne Change, to draw 6 fresh cards. Now, this is all really good because we want to accelerate our hand as quickly as possible after our opponent takes a knockout so that we can find ourselves Beast Rings. Beast Ring is still the best way to accelerate energy in this deck, even though Welder is a card. Beast Ring you can play multiple of in a turn and set up a board state. That means your opponent is unlikely to be able to win. You can also put yourself in a position where if your opponent does take a knockout, then they lose the game. So if they take a knockout on a Blacephalon with a Mewtwo, maybe you've already taken a knockout, you can just Beast Ring a ton of energy on the board, you'll be fine. The rest of the deck is built around finding your Pokemon and accelerating energy, because obviously that's the key. We need to be able to do that. So we've got Quick Ball to be able to find basics. We've got Mysterious Treasure, which finds pretty much everything in the deck apart from Dedenne and Blacephalon, and we also have 2 copies of Ultra Space to be able to find our Ultra Beasts. Obviously, we can use this as a kind of discard draw if we've got Naganadel-GX out already, or we can just use it to find our Blacephalons. We also have 1 copy of Heat Factory. Again, we can accelerate energy, and the good accelerate our hand, draw more cards, but you can also put energy in the discard pile with it that can then be accelerated onto Naganadel. So definitely some good synergy there. We have 2 Great Catcher. We can play one of them to take 3 prizes. We'll usually win the game. 2 means that we can, if we play both, we've won. So that's pretty good. And we also have 2 copies of Island Challenge Amulet. One of the things that Blacephalon does struggle with is the fact that it does give up 2 prizes pretty easily. And with ADP Station seeing quite a lot of play over the weekend, it can potentially give up 3 prizes for effectively nothing. So Island Challenge Amulet obviously reduces the HP of Blacephalon down to 80, but you can attach it so that you only give up 2 prizes to an ADP or 1 to anything else. It's worth doing to skew the prize trade a little bit. You can also attach it to your Oricorio so that it's not a tempting snipe target for your opponent. The supporters are pretty simple. We've got 4 Welder, like I mentioned, to be able to accelerate those energy. And we also have 4 copies of Marnie. This is going to be to stop our opponent from getting what they want in the late game. Marnie, shuffle your hand, place it on the bottom of the deck. You draw 5, your opponent draws 4. And hopefully your opponent isn't going to be able to get out of that situation, or at least they're not going to be able to get out of it as effectively as they would like. Obviously, Blacephalon in the past used to play Let Loose Marshadow for this exact reason, so that your opponent would have fewer resources to work with. The energy line is pretty simple as well. I already mentioned we have 1 Beast Energy, which adds 30 base damage to our Ultra Beast's attacks, and 1 Psychic Energy, which allows for our Blacephalon to attack pretty regularly, and the rest of the deck is made up of 14 Fire Energy. We want a lot of them because we need to discard them early, and we need to Lost Zone them to take knockouts, so that is an important thing that we need to keep track of, how many Fire Energy we have in the deck. It is important to note as well, you can Lost Zone the Beast Energy for that extra effect as well. So there we go, that's the deck. We'll take a look at it on the ladder and see how it works. Here we go, we've found a game. I'm not going to lie, I spent an entire 10 minutes recording one with audio before and didn't click start recording. So this one, I'm just double checking, yes, is recording. So we've won the coin flip here and we'll be ready to get going. We've got a decent start here. We've got a Blacephalon and a Poipole, as well as some energy and a Heat Factory, so we can start drawing some cards. And the Oricorio will be really good as well. We'll be able to use that to draw some cards, hopefully, if our opponent does knock us out. It, of course, depends on what our opponent is playing. But if we do have a decent matchup, we should be fine. Looks like Mew 3 here. So this could be one of 2 things. It could obviously be Mewtwo Malamar, which has been seeing quite a lot of play, or it could be Mewtwo Welder. If it's Welder, this Heat Factory could be a problem, but you never know. We'll see how it goes. Looks like we've got a Weak Guard energy from our opponent there and a Giant Heart. So this will be the Welder version of this deck. So we could be in a little bit of trouble, but it's okay. As long as we've got a decent start here, we should be fine. Our opponent Dedenne is into a fresh hand of 6. They have Giant Heart, so if they have Welder, they'll be able to start attacking this turn, but it doesn't look like they do. They're discarding a Fire Energy here. They'll grab 2 more. And then we'll see what happens. Just the way that they're kind of going about their turn here makes me think that maybe they don't have it, because they do. You would do it a bit quicker if you had it. And yeah, no, it just looks like a Beast Raid from our opponent. So we've been given a bit of a lifeline here. This is a kind of awkward hand. We'll play down the Oricorio because we're probably going to use Marnie. We could potentially try and steal a knockout on this Dedenne, but I don't think that we're going to bother. What we'll do is we'll just Marnie. Our opponent will get 4 new cards, we'll get 5, and hopefully we can set ourselves up a bit. We've got a Poipole here. We could theoretically quick ball an energy away and find the Dedenne, but I'm kind of thinking that we just want to stick with this hand for next turn. We can potentially use the Beast Energy, and we'll just Bursting Burn here. The 20 damage from the burn is actually really important because it means that we only need to Lost Zone 5 instead of 6 energy, so that's quite strong. And the confusion might be annoying enough to stop our opponent from attacking. So if we can get that going, we'll be fine. Next turn, we can quick ball into Dedenne, attach an energy, and use charging up, and we'll be able to take a knockout on this Mewtwo. So everything's looking pretty good. And as long as nothing crazy happens, we should be in a good spot. Obviously, our opponents had a very slow start as well. They're using quick ball now to try and find themselves some more cards. Looks like they're going to grab Reshiram and Charizard here. Could be a good attacker for this matchup, considering Weak Guard Energy might not be a high count in this Mewtwo list. I'm going to use Great Catcher to bring out this Oricorio, which is quite frustrating. We don't have any switch mechanics in our deck, so we might be in a bit of strife. We'll need to attach one of our energy to this Oricorio in order to get it out of the active. So we're going to need to either use Welder or find another Naganadel for charging up in order to get to the amount of energy that we need. So we'll see how we go. Our opponent grabs a Victini here off of their quick ball. They managed to find a Dedenne to get themselves going as well. And you'd think that we're in a bit of strife if they start attacking, although if they don't get this attack off, they could be fine. They just choose to pass, so they're not going to risk it. And we actually top deck a second quick ball here. So this turn, I think what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to pick up... Firstly, we're going to check to see if the Dedenne is in there. We need to know that the Dedenne is there, which it is, so that's good. We can grab ourselves another Blacephalon, or we can grab a Poipole here. I think we get the Blacephalon. That way, if we find something like Welder off of a Dedenne, then we're going to be all good to start attacking. We'll need to attach this energy to Oricorio so that we can retreat. Again, it's a bit unfortunate, but it's the way it goes. And then we'll quick ball again for Dedenne-GX, and hopefully we can find ourselves into 6 nice cards here. Looks pretty strong. We've found a giant. We've got the giant hearth and the welder, so we'll be able to get rid of, I think, this quick ball to find 2 more energy. That means we'll be able to put them both onto this new Blacephalon on the bench. Now we could potentially evolve the Poipole in the middle here into a charging up Naganadel, although now that we've got the Ultra Space, we might actually be able to find a Naganadel-GX here. This could be better because we're about to take 3 prizes. Getting stamped would be bad, especially if our opponent takes a knockout. We want to be able to find Beast Rings nice and quickly. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of this baby Blacephalon and draw some more cards. We've got ourselves a pretty strong board state now where we've got plenty of energy floating around. We can retreat into one of these Blacephalons. We might even attach that Island Challenge Amulet to the Oricorio just so it's not quite as tempting a target. And then we can use Mind Blown. We're going to discard, we'll Lost Zone 5 energy here, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave energy on the active. Our opponent has struggled a little bit to get going, so we could potentially cheese out a knockout here. 250 damage means that there's a straight knockout on that Mewtwo. We leave the energy on the active, so we're not super stressed about whether or not we're going to be able to attack next turn. We can either attack with Mind Blown if we feel like we're going to get a knockout, or we can even Bursting Burn or Burst GX as well. We grab a few prizes there, and this is looking like a pretty good setup for us. We're in front, and we're far enough in front that we're going to probably stay there. Just depends on how our opponent goes about these next couple of turns. A reset stamp is quite awkward for us, but as long as that Ultra Space stays in play, we'll be able to draw cards, so it's not a problem. Retreating into the Jirachi here. That retreat means that there's a pretty good chance that this Blacephalon survives this turn, so even though they have got the research to be able to draw more cards, they're not going to be able to attack for damage. They could potentially put the Victini V up and attack with that, try and utilize its first attack to spread some energy around, but I don't think that's a big deal for us. We're looking like we're in a pretty strong position here, although I will say our hand is pretty dead. Our opponent grabbing a couple of energy off of the Hearth, getting rid of Magcargo-GX. I'll grab a Mewtwo here, and I'll play that one down, you would presume. Probably attach an energy, and if they can, retreat into that Victini. Got a Cherish Ball. grabbing Greninja GX. So we'll see whether or not that comes up in the long run. They're just going to pass here. It's an interesting choice. Probably could have utilized their energy attachments a little better. What we're going to do is we're just going to charge up 1 energy onto this Naganadel. I think what we're going to do is we're going to attach to Blacephalon and then Mind Blown. I think that's probably the best thing that we can do here to stop them being able to utilize Jirachi. We can put 1 energy in the lost zone. Now we're a gust away from taking an easy knockout on a Dedenne. So that's really strong. If our opponent does get a knockout, we've got Beast Ring and plenty of energy, so we'll be fine for a knockout, you would think. We're in a really, really strong position here, where if our opponent actually does anything, we are probably going to win this game. So, like, no matter what our opponent does. Burning Magma GX is a really interesting choice there. You saw we got rid of the Welder off of the top, which is frustrating. We get ourselves another Fire Energy. So what we'll do is we'll attach that to the bench Blacephalon. Thought about the active, but we'll put it on the bench so that we can charge up and attack. And then we'll just use Bursting Burn. Probably you should have used Charging Up there. Just we've got the Fire Energy in the discard. Probably should have got it. But again, this Mewtwo is confused and burned. We're in a position where if they do take a knockout, then we'll be able to Beast Ring and take a knockout on in. Welder coming down here. They've got a couple of energy now, so being able to attach 2 is really strong. Stealthy Hood onto the Mewtwo. And then an extra Fire Energy, so they'll definitely take a knockout if they can get through this coin flip. If not, it's going to be pretty rough. And no, the confusion sticks, and that burn and confusion is a big problem. And yeah, that's the end of the game. Our opponent concedes, and fair enough too. There you have it, that's Blacephalon GX in action. Our opponent didn't really do anything in that match that threatened us, but you can see that when Blacephalon gets going, it is quite powerful. Thanks everyone for coming along. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, then consider subscribing. Click the button that's just here. Over on this side are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, and down the bottom is a playlist of more decks for the Sword and Shield format. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @TheSableEyes_YT. And apart from that, we'll see you all next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.